Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're walking in Memphis. Topic of this Walking in Memphis, USWA from September 13th, 1993. If you want to watch the show I'm reviewing for this, there is a link in the description right here. If you haven't seen my shows before, I rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. For Walking in Memphis, we consider everything from commercial break to commercial break. Basically, we rate the segment. Whatever falls within that segment all falls in the rating. With that being said, let's jump right in. We start off with what actually seemed to be the prototype for the Mr. McMahon character. Vince McMahon gloating about Tatanka beating Jerry Lawler for the World Championship, and Vince wearing the title and talking about how much more superior WWE was to Memphis. This is a full 4+ years before he would turn into Mr. McMahon in WWE, so it was kind of cool to see this here. I remember seeing this at the time, and it was one of those light bulb type moments, because in '93 I was 16 years old, so I started hearing that Vince owned WWE. It really wasn't announced. If you go back, there's hints to it. Ventura talks about it. Gorilla Monsoon even mentions it every now and then. But no outright admission that Vince was the guy that owned the company. He was just the announcer. We started around this time with the steroid trial and all of that, seeing Vince McMahon on shows basically outed as the owner of the company. So seeing this early version of the Mr. McMahon character here, really cool little thing in my opinion. I thought it was awesome. That leads us right into a highlight video of the dog catchers beating the Moondogs. The Moondogs at this time were Spike and Cujo for the tag team championship, which leads us right into a promo with Spike and Cujo and their manager Richard Lee. During that promo with Richard Lee and Spike and Cujo, they cut away to Paul Neighbors, who was the manager of the Dog Catchers, who were a masked team. This is all pretty good. That all leads us right into a match of the Intruders, another masked team going up against the Moondogs. Moondogs make some pretty quick work of them. I've said it before and I'll say it again and again. I like the gimmick of the Moondogs. It's simple, it's easy to understand, just a couple of brawlers, country boys. It makes sense. Anybody watching, whether it's the first time you see the Moondogs or you've watched them for decades, you understand right away who they are and what they're about. For all that whole first segment, I'm giving that a 4. I thought there was some really good stuff in there. Moondogs do pick up the win. The Vince video, seeing the Moondogs, the promos with Neighbors and Richard Lee, they were good, not great, but it was all rather good. Like I said, I'm giving that part a 4. That leads us right into another promo video. This time it's highlights of Tommy Wildfire Rich and Jeff Jarrett. Rich ends up beating Jarrett, winning the championship that Jarrett had. They didn't really say which championship was which. I think this would have been the International Championship. I'm probably wrong there, but cool little video. That leads us right into a promo with Tommy Rich, which Jeff Jarrett comes out, he gets restrained, leading us right into a match. Tommy Wildfire Rich versus Bill Vick. Wildfire toys with his opponent, much like a heel would, always fully in control of it, eventually picks up the win, continues to beat on his opponent, which brings out Jeff Jarrett again. For all that, I thought that was all really good between the promos, between the work of Tommy Wildfire Rich, the stuff with Jeff Jarrett. I'm giving that all a 5. Next up, we get another highlight video. This time it's Tatanka versus Jerry the King Lawler over the World Championship. This is where we get to see how Tatanka won it. That leads right into a promo with Tatanka in studio, basically talking about how much superior the WWF at the time was to Memphis. That brings out Jerry Lawler, who goads him into a match, basically a Survivor Series match with Tatanka, the Dog Catchers, and Tommy Wildfire Rich, and they're all putting all their championships on the line. They're going to be going up against the Moondogs, Jeff Jarrett, and Jerry the King Lawler. That also brings out Tommy Rich at the end of it. Altogether a great segment. That's followed up with a highlight video for Jeff Jarrett, which is muted here, so I guess it had some copyrighted music on it. Leads us right into a match with Dave Golden versus Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett picks up a pretty quick win here. Afterwards, we see Tommy Rich and the Dog Catchers come out to attack him. They get ran off by the locker room. All in all, another pretty good segment in the show. I'm giving this one a 4. Our next segment's pretty much one whole interview. It's Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, the Moondogs, and Richard Lee, the manager for the Moondogs. I don't know if it was the fact that he was there with Lawler and Jarrett, but this Richard Lee promo to me was a lot better than the one earlier. Obviously, Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler were great here. The Moondogs didn't say much because that's their gimmick. This is a great promo in my opinion. I'm giving this a 5 as well. Going from that, we have a segment called The Love Connection with Tony Adams, who's talking about the Phantom of the Opera, who's may or may not be a thinly veiled Chris Adams. That brings out Brian Christopher and Miss Robin, who they were feuding with at the time. Brian Christopher had beat Chris Adams in a loser leaves match, so basically this is your classic. Even though he lost a loser leaves match, he comes back with a mask on. Probably, in my opinion, the weakest part of this whole show. Even with Brian Christopher there, he was great in what he did, but Tony Adams and Miss Robin, not so much. Miss Robin especially looked like she didn't know what to do. That leads us right into a match with Freezer Thompson versus Tatanka. Quick match, basically shows how devastating Tatanka can be, and this was kind of cool. And I forgot to mention it on his promo. This was when Tatanka was still very much a face in the WWE, and he was playing a heel here, and he had a heel promo, and every time when he wrestled, he very much was a heel. Tatanka picked up the win here. For this segment, I'm giving this a 3. That leads us into our final segment of the night. First we get a promo from Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler, talking about the upcoming Survivor Series style match. Then we get a promo from the opponents, Tatanka, Wildfire Rich, and the Dog Catchers. Again, another really great promo. The Tatanka heel stuff here was really good. Even in his heel run in WWE when he finally joined the $1 Million Corporation, I don't think he did quite as good a heel promos and heel work as he did right here. This was all pretty good. For the end of it, I'm giving that a 4. All in all, I found this to be a highly enjoyable show. Everything from the Vince McMahon, Tatanka was a highlight on it. Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler being all over the show, Tommy Wildfire Rich, the Moondogs. This was a really quality show. Now, the quality of the video, as you may have seen from the pictures I posted here, they're all from the actual video. Quality of the video, not so great, but it's watchable. Overall, I would give the show a 4. I thought it was pretty good. I rather enjoyed it from beginning to the end. There's some really good highlights here. I wouldn't say there was much of lowlights. At the lowest point of this was still an enjoyable watch. Again, just a very highly enjoyable show in my opinion. I definitely recommend checking it out. With that being said, let's smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. If you see that little thing that says join, that's how you become a member of the page. I definitely appreciate it if you thought about clicking that. And if you made it all the way to the end, let's show Tatanka some love here. Put Tatanka in the comments if you made it to the end. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and we've been walking in Memphis.